Okay, so today we're diving into this really wild what-if scenario that's been making the rounds online. It's all based on a pretty provocative strategic analysis. Let's just jump right in. So the whole thing kicks off with a pretty startling question. In today's world, could the United States actually annex Canada? Now, obviously this is a hypothetical, but it's a fascinating one, you know? It really makes you think about what power even means anymore in the 21st century.
Right off the bat, the analysis makes one thing crystal clear. On paper, this isn't even a fair fight. When you just look at the raw numbers, the military, the economy, it's a completely lopsided matchup.
And to really drive this point home, the source uses some pretty intense language. It actually describes the US as, and I'm quoting here, trillions of times stronger than the weak Canada. Now, that's not our wording, of course, but it's the direct phrase they use to paint a picture of this massive power imbalance.
Okay, so if one side has such an overwhelming advantage, you've got to be asking, what's the catch, right? Well, as the analysis points out, the answer is way more complicated than just military strength.
For starters, the diplomatic cost alone would be just catastrophic. According to the source, an unprovoked invasion of a close ally like Canada would absolutely obliterate the American reputation. And you can bet that pretty much every single US ally would likely condemn it and side with Canada.
But, and this is where the analysis gets really interesting, it makes this cold, hard counterpoint. It argues that even with all that global backlash, even with allies supporting Canada, the power difference is just so immense that it wouldn't actually change the military outcome. And the reason for that confidence, well, it isn't just about tanks and planes. It's about the map itself. And that right there brings us to the absolute core of this whole argument. We're moving beyond just comparing armies and looking at what the source claims is the single most important factor here, geography. See, this is where the entire picture just kind of flips on its head. We all think of Canada as this enormous country, right? Second largest in the world. But the source hammers home a crucial fact. Most of that land is almost completely empty.
I mean, get this. The analysis points out that a staggering 90% of Canada's entire population lives in this super narrow strip right along the US border. That incredible concentration is the key to this entire hypothetical strategy.
And that's not just some trivia night factoid. In this scenario, that concentration is framed as a massive, massive strategic vulnerability. Why? Because it means all the people, all the infrastructure, all the industry, it's all packed into one very accessible place. It creates a very, very clear target.
So, this geographic reality leads to a shockingly simple two-step hypothetical strategy. First, an invading force would just bypass the huge empty north. You just ignore it. Second, it would concentrate all of its forces on that populated border region, effectively turning Canada, as the source calls it, into this tiny strip.
So here's the bottom line from the source's perspective. The invasion wouldn't really be about conquering this huge, vast country. It would be about taking control of a very, very concentrated area. In this scenario, it's strategy and geographic smarts that would trump sheer size.
And this whole thought experiment leaves us with a really critical question, doesn't it? It forces us to weigh two totally different kinds of power against each other, raw military force versus global reputation. So in our crazy, interconnected world, what does it truly mean to be powerful? Is it the army you have, or is it the allies you can keep? A lot to think about there.